Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Sunday afternoon, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with stress. Hopefully, I'm going to relieve some stress today because we're going to talk about saving some money, and I've got all sorts of little hacks for you here. But first of all, remember we are on air, and my sincere thanks to one of my neighbors who gave me this. I just think it's so cute, so we can save the environment now and turn it off. All right. I wanted to let you know that it has been a really fascinating week for me, as some of you know. And so, if you probably hear that I'm still have a cold, most peculiar thing, I started with bronchitis and now I've got a cold. So, I'm not quite sure how all that works, but some of you will understand that better than I am. So, if I sound a bit bunged up and not 100%, you know why. But other than that, I'm doing just fine. Thank you. And before we get on to the main part of today's broadcast, we've got some acknowledgements and birthdays and things. So, first of all, just to let you all know, I believe it's 4 weeks until Christmas. That's the 1 month. No more days. Hi there, Jeannie. And so please be aware. However, for those of you who know me well, you know I don't do winter. It's not my favorite season at all, and I'm glad that for some of you it is, but for me, not so much. Thank you, hi Jody. And I just want to let you know there are just 114 days until spring. Or if you're Lauren living in Tasmania, it's 114 days until fall. So enjoy it. Um, So our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to everybody involved in the Middle East. And I want to keep saying that because I don't know about you guys, but I hope they come to a solution to all of this pretty soon because we don't want to see any more innocent people have to lose their lives. And also for all those in the Ukraine as well. Let's not forget about them. We had a couple of birthdays earlier in the month. We had Trina in Cork. Her birthday was on November the 22nd. And of course, the Americans had their Thanksgiving on the 25th. Hi, Deb. Good to see you. And then um, I had my mammogram on Saturday, and oh, that went fine, by the way. No problems there. We, Jeannie, our thoughts and prayers go with you. Tomorrow is, I believe, the anniversary of the passing of York, your husband. And I can just imagine you're on a roller coaster of emotions as the day draws. I mean, I'm certain it's been a difficult week, and it'll be a difficult week the other side as well. Is it today? Okay. So our thoughts and prayers go to you. And please try and concentrate on the wonderful memories rather than the loss if you possibly can. And I know that you've got a mammogram tomorrow then. Did I get that right? Um, and I wish you all the best for that as well. And for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty touchy about mammograms because if I hadn't gone for mine last year, I wouldn't have found out I had cancer. And so, please, if you are female, don't skip your mammogram. It could save your life as it did mine. And then, of course, for those of you who know Jody, our admin, she's going in for an operation on Tuesday. So lots of stuff going on for a lot of people. And if I've missed your birthday and you're a regular, either a regular in the chat or not necessarily in the chat, but listening to the chat in the background, if you are a regular, please, and we haven't acknowledged your birthday, please let us know because it means it's not in the database because I do try and check that before I do a broadcast. And then our thoughts and prayers for anybody who needs them this week, whatever the reason might be. We are a group of people that care greatly about one another. And so, that is something that we want to make sure that you know. If ever you need any support, that's why we come here, and that's what we do. All right, Jeannie's saying she went to the cemetery yesterday and placed 4 rocks on the gravestone, one for John, one for Marion, one for Anne, and one for herself. Okay. And she has her mammogram tomorrow, as we already said. Hi, Ez. Good to see you. And so, as we go on to this, first thing I thought I'd tell you about, some of you who were listening on Friday will know that when I went to the cancer clinic for my 1-year checkup on Tuesday, I got a ticket. And I'll talk a little bit about what went into why I got the ticket. But I did say to you that I would do what I could on Friday afternoon to see if I could convince them that that wasn't the greatest idea to give me that ticket. So I'm pretty sure that those of you who have been following the story will want to know, how did it go? Well, I phoned them, and one of the things I really recommend to people, is that try and put yourself in the other person's shoes. Would you like to be a person at the other end of the telephone trying to deal with all these people who are trying to get out of tickets? I personally wouldn't want that job. And so the first thing I did when I phoned was I made sure I was really calm and really in my best space. And I hope that makes sense. And then when the lady came on, I said to her, I am so sorry to disturb your already very busy day, of that I'm sure. So the first thing I did was to try and say something nice. And I said, I wonder if you could help me. And sort of what I'm trying to do is to calm her down before she starts going into the automatic things that she says. And she did say, well, what's the ticket number? So I gave it to her. And then I said to her, something that I thought probably she didn't get very often. What I said to her was, I deserved the ticket. And she said, what? I said, I just want to start by telling you I did deserve the ticket. But what I'd like you to hear are some of the mitigating circumstances, and then maybe we can discuss it. And I said, number one, I am 76 years of age, and I was on my way to the cancer clinic, and that's where I couldn't find parking. I had an appointment with my oncologist. It wasn't just for a test or something, and we all know how difficult they are to get. And I said, I arrived over 30 minutes early for that appointment so that I would have time to find parking. And I drove around for 45 minutes and didn't find it. And then I realized I couldn't leave the property and go and get off-site parking because I have mobility issues, and it's difficult for me to walk more than about 500 meters. So I had no choice but to double park and illegally park, and that's why I said, I do deserve the ticket. I understand why the man gave me a ticket. Can you all see how I went about this? And how coming at it quietly and not attacking anybody or whatever has a whole different feel to it, to the way that most people go about doing this. And she just said, not a problem, we'll cancel the ticket. By the way, you may want to talk to the cancer clinic as to what they want you to do next time that happens to you. I said, how considerate of you to think of that. Thank you. On both counts. So my $80 ticket disappeared, and I'm very, very happy to say that, because, there's no way I wanted an $80 ticket. I don't know about you. And that's how I started saving money this week. Some of you will remember as well that I was talking about the fact that here in British Columbia, the local provider of our electricity, we call it Hydro, our local provider is running these little every now and then deals where they will send you an email and say between 6 and 9 tonight, see if you can save 20% of your usage. In other words, you normally use this much electricity. See if you can save 20% between 6 and 9. And I've now done 2 of those, and both times I did it, and both times I got a $3 reduction in my electricity bill. Good way to save some money. By the way, I've also signed up for the year-long one, which would save me $100. I'm not sure that I will achieve it, quite honestly, but the thing is, what if I did? It would save me another $100, and I don't know about you. These days, every buck counts. So let's save some other money. I've got all sorts of things for you here. First of all, some of you may remember I was talking about I keep talking about leeks and things. This is celery. And this is the bottom part of a celery stalk. You know what I mean? And all I did was put it in water until it started to grow a couple of pathetic looking roots. And then look at it now. And I'm using the leaves here for decoration when I cook. You know, when you always, when I'm making a stew, I'll throw a couple of leaves in and so forth. But amazing, isn't it? The root system. Now, if it's still alive in 114 days when we get to spring, I'm going to plant it in the garden. So there we go. And then I've also talked to you about leeks. Now, a leek really, not many people know about leeks, but leek really is a giant spring onion. Let me put it that way, all right? So here is a leek, and it's a small one. And again, I took the bottom, of a leek that I brought into the house, and I don't know if you can see, it's just starting to grow roots there. So there we are. The roots are just in water. And whenever I want spring onion, I just literally cut off a bit like this, and then I've got spring onion. Yeah, depending on how much I want. But makes sense. And so all I do is keep cutting the tops off. And the reason I like that is because spring onion, for what you get, is very expensive. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, obviously I'm going to use this tonight, but normally what I would do is cut a whole lot off and just put it in the fridge, just like this. And what it does is it freezer dries. It means it keeps its color, but it dehydrates in the fridge. Very good idea. Okay, two things there. Wait a minute. I really, really cannot encourage you enough to grow your own herbs. This one's basil, and I've got other ones starting here. Okay, this is the next batch coming in now. Just going to put some water in that so I can put it back again where it belongs. But it's just like Jody. She bought Lionel bought her a big thing of basil. How's it doing? When did he buy that? September? No, before August maybe. How long have you had it, Jody? And did you dry any of it? Is what I wondered. All right, because I dry a lot of the herbs that come into. If I buy a bunch of herbs, I'm a single person. I'm not going to use a whole bunch of herbs. So what I do is I use what I want. Hang on a second. For example, I had a recipe that called for some sage, and I couldn't find my sage. I found it subsequently, of course. But what I do is I use what I want, and then I left this. I left this in the fridge, and now this is dry in the fridge. Okay. So, which means it's time to put it away. So that's pretty darn awesome. And that brings me to the next one, which is think about your containers, all right? Now, I am inclined to have a certain gum that I chew. And I, over the, obviously every time I empty, I just love the containers, right? The containers are really useful for me because, look at that. And I love it because when they're in a drawer, it's like they face you and it's just so easy. So this obviously chives, and this is basil that I've grown and dried. So look at that. That's for my caprese salad. Yum, yum. Okay, so that's that. And then I've even got some dried leeks. Oh, I did. I've used them. I even had some dried leeks. Yes, Jodie's saying they bought the basil back in August. And is it still alive, is the question. Yeah, she's saying it's been a treat to have fresh basil whenever we want it. In the past, I just bought a small package of it when I was making a recipe that required basil. I'm going to get rosemary and thyme as well. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I've got a beautiful rosemary bush out in my garden. And what I did, Jody, just so you know, at the just before the frost and everything came in, no, probably beginning of November, I cut a couple of stalks of it, and I just left them in a sort of in a pot without any water or anything. I just left them on my deck, and they have dried out there, and they look great. They actually look ornamental, to be quite honest. So what I will do is I will give some to Doug because he loves to barbecue, and I'll give him some in his care package. So easy to do and saves you a lot of money. And that's the whole thing. What I do now is I give away, when I do presents for people for Christmas and things, I will throw in a little bag of herbs here and there. Somebody will get some chives and somebody else will get dried rosemary. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is this, that everybody uses them, so why not? Mila Kunis said, "The fact that there is no right or wrong is what I think is maddening. I can think you're a phenomenal actor, but the guy next door can think you're a horrible actor. And neither of us is wrong. And neither of us is right. It's all a matter of opinion," as the man with the wooden leg said. So you look at it and go, try and think about this week, all right? Which is so much that we get bent out of shape with is just somebody's opinion. And it is just not something that we need to be worrying too much about. Now, the other thing that I've been saving money on of late is guess what it is? Okay. It sells do-it-yourself toilet bowl cleaner. All right. And so simple to make, and yet one of those things that costs us quite a bit of money when really it shouldn't, because there's the ingredients are just so simple. The only things in here are, hang on, let me get it for you. Baking soda, okay? Baking soda, really important. And a little bit of some sort of, I use citric acid. I use lemon juice in mine, but you could use a little bit of vinegar, something to cut through any grease and scale that might be building up. And then a little bit of dish soap. All right. And then what you do, okay, so what you do is, oh, and I've put some blue coloring in there, obviously. I'm just going to mix this up because it's been sitting for a couple of days. There we go. And I want you to see that it's sort of like wet sand. That's the consistency. So don't, if you put too much water in, just add a little bit more of the baking soda. All right, so you get that. It just sort of wet sand consistency. And all I did was take an ice cube tray, please notice how difficult this is. Get a different tool because I'm scraping the bottoms now. Or the sides. So I think you can see it. It's pretty darn simple to do. Now then, here it is. I'm just going to sort of tap it a bit to get the air bubbles out of it in case there are any. Yep, there were. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to transfer it onto a baking tray. Okay. And now I'm just going to leave that in the back room for a couple of days for it to dry. Hang on a second. And when I say dry, I want it just to be dry enough that I can demold it. All right. This is not dry yet, but it's dry enough to come out of the mold. Do you understand? Okay. And then the rest of the drying it can do in the open air. Now I put mine in a little muslin bag like this and just tie this round part of the cistern so that every time the water flushes, it pulls from here. But you could actually just drop one of these into the bottom if you wanted to. Yeah, it's up to you. But it takes probably all of 15 minutes to put it all together. And I don't think I will ever buy toilet bluing stuff again, right? And the other thing is, you can decide how much soap you want in there or how much, lemon juice or whatever. And, you can decide how much color you want or not. It's up to you. And I like it for that. So it's very personal. Anybody else make their own toilet cleaner? By the way, I also make my own bleach ones, but I do them in ice cubes. And I use those about probably once a month, where I just drop in a puck into the toilet bowl at the bottom of it just to, bleach it. And those, again, just use... Oh, you saw one on TikTok today. Okay, I actually didn't see it on TikTok. I've been doing it for a while, but it's good to know. So this is like, think about how much money you could save. And I have been using mine for really quite a long time, and I love the bleach ones as well. So there you go. Now then, how many of you use Smellies? I want to call them Smellies in your wash? And I used to use these. All right. Do any of you use them to make your wash smell good? And so it's very expensive. Very expensive. So you know me, I'm like, there has to be a way to make your own. Oh, interesting. Kimmy's saying that on TikTok they used a sock to put the thing in, but she thinks that maybe the muslin bags. I just happen to have a lot of muslin little bags. When I buy them for like 100 at a time, because I'm always using them for different things and giving presents away and stuff like that. So I had quite a few in the house. All right, so here's what I discovered. Oh, didn't bring it in. I now make my own, okay? And this smells so good. Is made from Epsom salts. And did you know that you can buy Epsom salts already flavored? Already has a fragrance to it. All right. And this one has a peppermint flavor. I'm not eating it. Do not eat it. It has a peppermint fragrance to it, which is, nice because I can use it as a base on its own if I want to, or I can add other things. Yeah, I didn't know it either, Jody. So, Jody, have a quick look at how much if you would. Sorry to ask you this. How much does a bag of this would be about £5 bag? of Epsom salts cost in America? And also, how much does, one of these cost? Right. So while Jodie's just doing the research of that, let me tell you how easy it was to make. I literally poured the Epsom salts into a mason jar. And then I decided which flavor shall I have and which fragrance shall I have. I added eucalyptus to mine. So this batch, and that's why I keep smelling it, because it's just such a great smell. This is a peppermint and eucalyptus. Okay. And every time I do a wash, I just literally pour 2 cups worth of this into the washing machine before I start putting the clothes in. Got that? Now, you can put as much or as little as you want. 2 cup worth, it doesn't create a huge lingering fragrance on the clothes, but it just, it just gives it that little touch. And what I wanted to let you know, they also make Epsom salts with lavender. They make Epsom salts with all sorts of different fragrances. So if you're somebody who uses that to for your wash, you're going to save quite a bit of money. That is my feeling. So I like to play with these things, and if they work for me, then I share them with you. So that definitely works. And for example, you can buy. Thank you so much, Jody. Jody's saying it costs about $18 roundabout. $18 to buy the big bag of Epsom salts. Oh, rosemary mint Epsom salts, right? And $5.48 for the beads. So you understand, they don't fill this thing right up, right? So I would say that this would be much more than you would have got in one of these, right? And I hardly used any of that because this bag wasn't filled up to here. This bag was only full to about here. I can prove that. This is a 10-pound bag. Sorry, a 10-pound bag. Yeah, and it's now it's now 7 pounds. So I've done it twice. I've taken 2 lots out. Okay. So after 2 lots, I still have this much left. Big cost saving. What do you think? And obviously, the bigger the bag of Epsom salts, that could have been very scary. Because this is a jar of fragrance. Imagine if that had broken when it dropped. This one happens to be jasmine. But if I wanted to just add a bit of a different fragrance to it, I could just add some more jasmine to it or whatever. Yeah, Kimmy's saying, I like the lemon and eucalyptus smell. Yes, you can do whatever you like. And so whatever it is that you like, now obviously Jody won't be using eucalyptus because she's allergic to it. But, it's like you can still have the luxury of it without the cost of it. And that's always what I'm trying to do, is every month I'm going, what can I make myself that normally I buy? Some of you know, I learned to make puff pastry this week, which blew my mind. Not this month. I learned to make my own puff pastry, and I cannot believe that I used to buy that. And also that I bought into the myth that it was so difficult, because it isn't. And then yesterday these look a bit funny at the moment, but I was busy trying to learn how to make English crumpets. And I'm nearly there. Few more goes at that and I will have that one done. And I went to dinner, as you know, on Friday, and I took that loaf that I made, that I showed you. And it was so funny because my neighbor said to me, "Do I have to share it?" It was like, I don't know where she took it, but she took it away. It did not appear on the dinner table. And by the way, on Friday, she had pulled beef. Normally you have pulled pork, but she had pulled beef and Yorkshire pudding and mashed potato and parsnip, turnips. No, which are the white carrots? Turnips, right? Turnips and carrots and gravy to die for. I want to tell you, really, I first of all had a plate full, which was bigger than bigger plate than I would normally eat from. I then went back for seconds. Kimmy's saying she loves her cup. I'm glad you're happy with it, honey. I enjoyed making it for you. And then I went back and had thirds. I'm not joking. I was taking little bits at a time, but I want to tell you, I kept adding different things, and the gravy was so good that in the end, I took, an extra Yorkshire pudding and extra gravy, and I just dunked it and hoped that my mother wasn't watching. And it was just like I felt so embarrassed. And I normally eat a cup of food. I probably had 6 cups worth, at least. And it was just like, oh, it was so good. It was, and then Betty Ann gave me a doggy bag to bring home with me, and that would have been 2 meals normally. I had it all yesterday. Now, how many of you are going, and how was your blood sugar, Sal? I did check my blood sugar this morning, and it was fine. I'm not sure if it was fine yesterday, but it was fine this morning. So we're good on that one. Well, Jody's saying, Sal, it was a compliment to the chef that you enjoyed it that much. Well, I knew I needed the strength because, as I think I told you, after the meal, we had a game of Boggle. And we play very serious Boggle. So, and it was such fun. And unfortunately, I had to leave earlier than I wanted to because I knew I had the mammogram early the next morning. So, okay, so what is this one? I can't read this person's name. Can I have got it somewhere else? I think it's Delta Goodrum. Anybody know that name? Anyway, said anybody who's gone through a life-changing experience will tell you there's a difference understanding of what is real and what is important. And when you're going through different moments, you can reflect and go, I have been through the worst. I was talking to Jody yesterday, I think, when I said to her, it's okay to feel. We know that. We're always telling people it's okay to feel. And don't worry if you are feeling whatever. Feelings are just your stuff, right? And what I said to her, it is also okay to be scared. I mean, if you had all the health issues that Jody's got, having them open you up and play with your intestines, I think I'd be pretty scared. Um, I'd be pretty scared if I was healthy to start with. Never mind if I was already, compromised. So, Jody, what I also said, it's okay to wonder, what if I don't make it? And, because I think what everybody says is, oh, don't think like that. And I want to tell you, when I went in for my mastectomy, I not only thought, what if I don't make it? I rewrote my will. I made sure everybody that was involved in that side of it knew exactly where it was. I made sure that it, that it was logged into the will database that the province here has. Um, this, I did everything I could to make sure if I didn't make it out the other side, that it would be, everybody would know what to do from that perspective. And then I got to thinking, and this is an interesting one. Oh, they're removing her gallbladder as well at the same time. It's a 3-for-1. And an updated liver biopsy. Okay, so, it's like, boy, but the good news is, it's great that they can do a 3-for-1, right? A quick snip and out goes the gallbladder. A quick snip and they've done the biopsy for the liver. That's good. Yeah, and Kimmy's saying she thought the same when she had her surgery. And I want to just make sure that you all know that is all normal. It's not that you're being a wuss or fatalistic or, and when people say to me, oh, how can you think like that? And I go, because I am a risk manager. In my mind, it's very important for the people who love me to know stuff. It is very important that they know, if I don't make it out the other end of this, what my wishes are, what I want to have happen. I don't think that's being anything other than pragmatic and organized, if you like. And so you look at it and go, don't let other people tell you that that is a negative thing. Oh, you shouldn't think like that. Yes, you should. As far as I'm concerned, it tells me that you care. So to have some fear about, will I make it through the other end, I think is vital when you're having a major operation or any operation. Because what's the name of the comedian? Joan Rivers, right? When Joan Rivers had that anesthetic for a quick chin job or whatever it was that she was having done, did she think for one moment that she wasn't going to come out the other end? Probably not. And she died. So, it's just like, I don't think that that's being anything other than intelligent, quite honestly. There will always be people who can do things better than you, but that's a good thing. Start to see competition as inspiration without envy. All right? So to me, I can watch something on YouTube and I can see somebody make this gorgeous loaf of bread, which I did originally. And then when I was in the pandemic and I thought, mind you, we didn't think we were going to be in pandemic for 2 years. But when I was in lockdown and I'd had the fire and I was all alone, I'm going, what am I going to spend my time doing, right? And I decided I was going to learn how to make bread. And it gives me such joy to this day, and it's just like, I want to tell you, I can make bread so easily now. And the other thing is, it's my own brand of bread, right? It's a multi-dough, multi-grain sourdough. And it has everything in it. It has a little bit of white flour in it. It has some whole wheat. It has some rye. It has chia. It has quinoa. It has flaxseed in it. And it's just like, and I don't even think now. I don't measure. I can just huck stuff in there now. Oh, I add milk powder. I put in it, and I put a little bit of salt, and I do it in my Niger the Ninja, my mixer. And it's just like, I think it was so difficult when I started. And now I don't, I can literally do it in half an hour or so, you know what I mean? The whole thing, and I have it all. And then I weigh it out into 3 ounce, normally about 3.2 ounces. I don't know why that's the magic number for me, but that makes a really nice size, not too big, nice size pita for me to stuff with cheese and cucumber for my sort of my brunch. That's what I have, a stuffed one. Pita bread is now 3.50 for 6 pieces, and that's filled with white flour and additives. Yep, so that's the other thing. I like knowing what's in my bread, you know. And what I found interesting that my neighbor said, "Your bread is the tastiest bread I have ever tasted." And she said, "It's got this flavor to it that is just so tasty. Normally bread is sort of, but she said your bread is like a meal on its own. It's that tasty." And she said it's almost got a nutty flavor to it. And I said, well, it's the seeds. You got a lot of seeds in there. And so I really want to say that, yes, it takes time. And some of you are probably saying, oh, I can't make my own bread. It takes too much time. I don't have that sort of time. It took time when I was learning. It doesn't take me time at all now. And I have not bought bread since we went into pandemic. The texture, Jodie's talking about the texture. The texture is really an important part, right? The crumb, as she calls it. And it's so funny, Jodie, because sort of when I open up the crumpet, I was thinking, how's the crumb on the crumpet? I should not have done that. It's so good. Anyway, so what I found out was the dough that you need to make crumpets is really very simple once you know how. And as you can tell, not at all good to eat. So keep asking yourself, how can you save money this week? Okay. I am systematically lowering the amount of money I spend at the grocery store, even though prices are more expensive. The other thing I'm doing is I am wasting less. Now, I did do an experiment yesterday as well, and that was to make my own oat milk. And it didn't work out well, but I will not quit until I can do it. Because I know that oat milk is much more healthy for me than, regular milk. So it's something I want to learn. And what do we know? Anything you want to do, you will always find time for. Anything you want to do. And so I'm looking forward to having this year to learn how to make good oat milk that will make good latte. That's what I want. Because had a little trouble finding it, obviously. And I just want to show you why. I love this barista made by Earth's Own Barista Oat, and it is great as a latte. It foams up beautifully. So that was my point. But the problem is, this is about $6 ago, and therefore I could save myself, $6. Well, how many do I go through? Probably a couple of them a week. So that's $12. Now I could probably buy it in a bigger jug. I haven't been able to find it yet, but I'm pretty certain they must make it in a bigger jug. But now I went, okay, fine. So let me learn how to make my own. But I'm not there yet. And so if anybody knows how to make good oat milk, let me know. However, it doesn't look too bad. I just didn't like the taste. Taste wasn't right, and it didn't make good latte. So it looks good. So I'm getting there. And interestingly enough, the recipe called to add coconut to it. So it's got that little coconut taste to it, but it just didn't have the taste that this has. So I'm going to have to find out, what did they huck in here that I don't know about? Time to put the glasses on and find out, right? And maybe I need to try 5 or 6 different recipes. And the reason is, how much does it cost for a bag of oats? Not a whole lot, and especially if you buy it in bulk, which I do. And really all you do is put the oats in with some filtered water and you blend it. And then you strain off the solid, right? This is the solid that was left after I blended it. Well, it was more than that. Now, I keep this because what I do is I turn this into my overnight oats. All right. So it's like got the milk on the one side, but I've still got the value of the oat here. And so this morning, that's why it's missing some. And this morning, I took about half of it and added blueberries to it. And that was my breakfast. Again, saving a lot of money. So why will we need to? I think you're going to find that everything's going to get way more expensive than you can even imagine at this point. That is my belief. I hope I'm wrong. So I'm working very hard at trying to learn, what can I survive on? I could survive on bread. I make my own butter now. It's just like, and it's so, I had my friend Laurie come over this week, and in the middle of doing something, I said, oh, we need some butter. And I went to the fridge and got some out. She said, that's unusual looking butter. And I said, oh, it's mine. And she said, what? I said, no, I make it. You're making butter now? I said, yeah, it takes all of about 4 minutes, 5 maybe. But it's so useful when you're doing something and you need a teaspoon of butter. I just go and get a teaspoon of butter. And it hasn't got a whole lot of salt in it. If I want to, I can add salt, but I don't put it. No, I wanted to move on to something else. This is a bit of intelligent time here. All right, which is the biggest country in the world? Give me the top 3 biggest countries. All right, here we go. Kimmy's saying sometimes something's going on with the chat on my internet, like turning the hat down. Oh, heat. Yeah, Kimmy's saying do things like turn the heat down and use less water and yes, like electricity. Absolutely. Um, yeah, and Kimmy says every time I cut things to save, for some reason things get more expensive, and it's going to continue, Kimmy. So keep learning how to be self-sufficient more. All right, what do you think are the top three countries? Which are the three biggest countries in the world? No, make it four if you like, and let's see how you do. Um, and the reason I'm asking you that, all right, Jody has a guess at China, India, and Russia. Okay, the three biggest countries. Anybody else want to have a guess? All right, so you know that Russia is the biggest. Jody, I'm a bit upset with you right now because the second biggest country is Canada. Yeah, get over it. You'll never forget that again, Jody. You will never forget that again. All right, the second biggest country in the world is Canada, and the third biggest is China, and the fourth is your land, USA. Now then, this is where the intelligent bit comes in. Now that we know the top four countries, which do you think are the top four polluters? In other words, carbon emissions. Which four, or even give me a couple if you can't think of four, and which one do you think is the biggest polluter and the second biggest or the third biggest? Because I was having a look at that and it blew my mind. And I'm going to share it with you. Anybody else want to know? Oh, there's part of me that says, I guess if you wanted to know, then you probably have looked it up by now. So Jody's saying North America and China. Yeah, good guesses. China is by far the biggest, but it also has the biggest population. So you've got to think about that, all right? But it produces on its own, if you can imagine this, on its own, it produces 29% of the world's carbon emissions. Isn't that scary? Interesting. Kimmy's adding India to the mix. Okay. India is actually third. Well done, Kimmy. Proud of you. The US is second. If you can believe this, the US is second in emissions, and it produces 14% of the world's emissions. 14. Okay? It's not the second biggest country. India is the third. Well done, Kimmy. Proud of you there. And that produces 7% of the world's emissions. So now we've got China, the USA, and India together. Let me see if I can do the math real quickly. It's 29, 39, 43. So 50% of the world's emissions are coming just from those three. Half of it. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jody. Now then, remember Russia is the biggest country? It only is the fourth biggest polluter. And it only pollutes 4.765, actually, 4.65%. Surprising, right? I would have thought Russia would have been much higher. What about you? Biggest country, I would have thought, And then after that, the next biggest polluter is Japan. That surprised me. It's such a clean country. And after that, again, a surprise, Germany. And then seventh, Canada, which is the second biggest country. So I'm not surprised it's in the top 10. Mexico doesn't make it to the top 10, Kimmy, just so you know. I only printed out the top 10. So I apologize for that. I think by virtue of the size of Mexico, it doesn't warrant, all right? But again, I'm going back to what my electricity company is doing, which is challenging its users to, between the, in the winter during the busy time, how can you save in electricity? So I look at it and go, I am realizing that there are so many different ways that we can help the environment if we want to. But the thing is, we are so tied in to our electronics, and I'm big guilty of this one. And nobody asked me, but how do I drop my usage by 20%? 20% when they call for it. How do I do that? I literally walk through the house, not joking, it's not difficult. I walk through the house and I go through the kitchen. I go, I don't need the coffee maker right now, or the foam machine right now. I unplug. I don't need my cup warmer, unplug. Undo those. I don't need my magic bullet, unplug. I don't need Ninja, unplug. I leave the caloric plugged in. I don't know why, but I've never unplugged it. And then I just go through the house, and anything that I'm not using, I turn the second television off. My second television is inclined to be on most of the day, so every time I go to the washroom, I catch up on the news. Weird, but it's what I do, right? But it's amazing how few things I actually have to turn off. And the other thing that I found amazing is that my electricity company also shows me what my neighbors are doing, not literally, but average houses of the same size. How much are they using? And I'm surprised that I already, without doing that, I already use less than most of those people, quite a bit less. And remembering I don't have a furnace. So this is going to be interesting to see how it stacks up during the winter. Kimmy's saying the kids won't get off the internet. No, I didn't get off the internet. Gosh, you gotta live, Kimmy. I just turned the lights off. Did it in the dark. By the way, here's a question for you. How many of the light bulbs in your house are still the old-fashioned type ones? And what percentage of them are still old-fashioned ones? And what percentage are LEDs? Give some thought to that. I think at the moment, I think I'm right in saying all of the light bulbs in my house are either what I call the industrial Edison ones. I don't know how to describe that. I'd have to go get one and show it to you. But it doesn't use the same thing as a old-fashioned bulb, or the other ones are all LEDs, right? So, it's just like it's amazing. The other thing is, and I believe a lot of you know this, that I also have a lot of power bars on the floor in my house. So if I walk through my house, they're motion detected bars, so that as soon as I walk through my house, they just come on. And then as I pass it, it turns itself off. They're battery driven, and I can recharge them with a USB port. Save a lot of electricity that way. So I'm not, when I go to the washroom, I don't turn a single light on. I go from my one end of the house to the other, and I don't turn on a single light until I get to my bathroom. And even then, I don't necessarily have to turn that light on. Kim. All right, so Jody's saying we don't have any LEDs, and I don't like that we don't. Making that a goal for 2024. Good idea. And yes, Kimmy's saying the furnace uses a lot of electricity. It is turned down. They recommend, if you want to save 20%, turn it down. In fact, it's turn it down 1 degree for 10%. So if you want to save 20% in the winter, turn it down 2 degrees and put on an extra layer of clothing. Or get a space heater just to warm up where you are. I don't warm up the whole house anymore. It's really, I've got this down to, it's going to be interesting to see how I do with this. I warm up my bedroom because that's the coldest part of the house. The bedroom and the living room are the only two areas that I heat. However, the middle of the house is really quite cool by comparison, right? I can feel it, as I get to the middle part of the house. If I'm working in there, I don't mean just quickly wrapping something or doing something, but if I'm working in there, like doing something in confetti corner, then I will turn on a space heater at my feet so that I'm not cold. And I normally will turn that on about an hour before I go in there, just so it has a chance to warm it up a bit, right? Because it really is significantly cooler. Wow. So Kimmy's saying she sets her furnace at 66. That's pretty low. Most people put it at that for nighttime. That's all the time. All right, let's hear what everybody else says. That anybody else want to say that? I think. I found this is funny. I actually heat most of my house with my gas fireplace. Okay. Hi, Rensky. Good to see you. Karen, it's Karen, right? Karen's saying, in keeping certain areas cooler, do you worry about the pipes freezing? Yes, I've had it happen. And guess where they froze? In my bathroom, my ensuite bathroom for my bedroom. So that's why I heat that end of the house. And the other thing I do, and Jody will not be surprised, I hang a meat thermometer down into the duct to find out how cold the ducts are under my house. And then if I find that the ducts are getting into the 30s, I know at night to run my water slowly so that the pipes don't freeze. So Jody's saying for every degree you change the thermostat over an 8-hour period, you can expect to see about a 1.5 difference in your overall bill. Yeah, that's what I said. If you think about it, actually, what? I saw it was even bigger than that in the winter, Jody. If you turn it down 1 degree, you will save 10% in the winter. All right, so you leave yours at 70. Yes, I want to say that I have mine fireplace so that it keeps my living room at about 72 during the day. About 71, 72. However, at night, because I've got a window behind me and a big bay window to the right, that's really cold. Like when this, because we're already below freezing. So at night, I crank it up a bit so that it's warmer in the living room. All the best, Jeannie. Thank you for being here. So again, this is like, it's not about, you shouldn't need to sit in your house and shiver. No, because you need to find out what is comfortable. All right. And what I realized is, where do I spend my time? I'm either in the living room. Oh, by the way, the kitchen, my air fryer heats that up. And also, as I think I've discussed before, this wall, I've got my computer in a cupboard here. But behind the cupboard, the wall there is the back of the fireplace. So you can imagine that there is heat that comes through from there. So my kitchen is basically warmed from the fireplace and from the air fryer. And that's a pretty good temperature. What are we at now? Wow. It's amazing. It's at 78 in here. Doesn't feel it. It feels colder than that. But that's what it says. And it certainly doesn't feel it. However, as I think you all know, because of the construction of my house, I've got a crawl space underneath. The difference between my knees and my feet is about 10 degrees. So it might be 78 up here, which means it's about 70 here, And it's about 65 at my feet, So let's try and save a little more this year. And the whole thing is this, that, for every 10% that you can save, all right, you can counter the cost of the groceries going up, is what I'm thinking. I'm also thinking about the cost of my car. Having a car is an extremely expensive thing these days. And so, to me, I have love my car to bits, but I don't really need it the way I used to. I'm not commuting to work every day or anything. And so the next thing I may worry about is, do I get rid of the car? Save on insurance, save on, all the maintenance of it and so forth, all those things, right? And the other thing that somebody was doing some analysis on, and you might want to have a look at this, is it cheaper to rent than it is to own? Rent with all the utilities thrown in rather than own. Definitely. However, you don't build equity, right? You're basically that money you don't see again. Whereas if you own, then at the end you get to sell the house and you have hopefully made a profit. So, all good stuff. Jody, before we go into the op, because this is going to happen before the next broadcast, can I find out from you right now, while there are people in the thing, if Lionel updates me, how far can I update? In other words, should I wait until you tell me to update the viewers? I intend, I'm certain I will be updated before then, but I better be. But what I want to know is, at what point do you want me to update the viewers? Because I will do that on your behalf. Dum, 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 dum. And just so that you know, apparently the results from my mammogram, which should take about a week to come through. And am I a little bit hesitant about it? Well, yep. Remember the last one told me I had cancer, so let's hope that that doesn't repeat itself. But I'm so grateful that it did. Okay, so blanket permission in front of witnesses, blanket permission to update when Lionel texts you. Okay, so as soon as he tells me, I can tell the viewers. And I will, use my usual, I will have my usual executive decision on how much I share, because that's what I do. Okay, so here we have it. Jody, weird feeling, right? I'm so glad. And I said to Jody, did she think she'd be well enough for the Friday broadcast? They're going to rip up half her stomach. I'm going, you think you'll be there for? She said, I'm planning on it. So we'll look forward to that, Jody. And, we'll look forward to your update on how it all went and how much trouble you caused in hospital. I can imagine it. Will they keep you overnight? That's very kind of you. Thanks, Karen. Karen's saying prayers for 100% perfect mammogram and results. It's 100% cancer-free. Yeah. Jody says, weird. Waves of emotion, but I'm in a good headspace and planning to be back to nag you to bits. Good. You better. So So we'll find this all out, and I will let you guys know as soon as as I hear from Lionel. I will just give you the basics of it. I won't give you the gory details or anything, but just give you the basics that she's through the operation, or not, or that she's in recovery. Are they keeping you overnight? Yes, we asking me to stay overnight. The insurance won't update the authorization until you're in recovery. Wow. Wonder why. Well, they won't know and then until then either. All right. All right. So they won't know, Jody, whether they need to keep you overnight until they get to that point. So that makes sense to me in a way. It sounds cold, but I understand what they're saying. If they do the operation and everything goes according to plan, then they're not concerned about anything. Exactly. They've listed the surgery as a bladder removal. Okay, which is typically a 1 day. Yeah, exactly. And that's why. So if they then say, well, hang on a second, but what we found and we had to, play rooter in there and do this, that, and the other. Yeah, I said to Jody, her intestines have been doing crochet in there and they've all got knotted up. Can you believe that? That is so scary. Oh, Kimmy's had a gallbladder out. My sister has as well. So, any words of wisdom on that one, Kimmy? The reason I say that is because I think everybody has their own experience of these things. But if you've got any, in a way, I've got a feeling that might be the least of your issues when you come out the other side, so to speak, Jody. But we'll see. I believe flatulence becomes a problem, but I could be wrong. Oh, interesting. Kimmy says you might not want to lie flat for a while. I don't think she does anyway. Yeah, that's what I thought, Jody. Jody's saying she agrees the gallbladder is the fun bit. She's all the other stuff they're going to do that's worrying for her. Anyway, it is what it is, Jody. It needs to be done, and we can hope and pray that when it's done, you will be out of a lot of this pain and get rid of a lot of the nausea. Yeah. So you had trouble breathing because you were lying flat? That's Kimmy talking on that one. Okay, well, everybody, I'm sure that everybody here wishes Jeannie all the best for her mammogram tomorrow, and then Jody's operation on Tuesday. So by the next broadcast, we should be able to update everybody, but I will update you as soon as I hear. All right. Oh, lying on your side was an issue. I'm trying to remember. Um, when I had the mammogram, of course, they had me strapped in like I'd broken my ribs. They have that stretch bandage that they put around you so that nothing moves. And that actually is a bit, like a dog's thunder blanket, I think they call it. That it's amazing. They do it like that so nothing moves. And I want to tell you, after about 4 days, we had to take it off to check on stuff, and that's scary. You're going, all this is holding me together. What happens when we undo it? All the stitches pop. And it's the first time I saw the wound, and the wound was just horrific. It went from here to here, right? And it was just like, I had no idea it was that big. I don't know why. It was just like, I did not expect to see a scar this long. And it was just like, and it was not pretty, people. So, Jody, that's the other thing. I want to tell you something, Jody. I literally stood there, and as Jess and I were undoing it, bit by bit, because we had to change the bandages, and as we took parts of the bandaging off, we're going, "Wait, that's bigger than I thought." But the only thing was we're only this far. I thought they would have sort of made a slit No, apparently not. Um, but it was funny how both she and I were standing there, and I'm going, that's not quite what I expected. But they had to go this far, all right? It's halfway. The scar ends just about uh, halfway under my armpit. Why? Because this is where your lymph nodes were, and they took 3. Count them. All right. They also not only took the boob, but they took 3 lymph nodes. So that's why it went all that way. Yeah, and Jody, I want you to look at this and say, how did I deal with all of that? The same way Jody's going to. I want to tell you 90% of recovering from an operation, I think, is attitude. And obviously good drugs. I want to tell you something. I had no pain. The drug management, I don't like taking pills. I hate taking pills. And I certainly don't like taking opioids. But I want to tell you something. They told me, you will take these and you will be ahead of the pain until we tell you otherwise. So, this is like, okay. And I have to tell you that the emotional part of it was something else, but the actual, and I had no pain because they had me drugged up to the eyeballs. But what was it? Within 3 days, I was off the opioids, and I was just on Tylenol a couple of times a day. I started off 3 times a day, and then was down to 2 times a day for most of the second week, I think. Yes, and so Jody, that's what I'm saying. Staying ahead of the pain helps in recovery, right? The good drugs, no doubt about it, help in recovery. Also, the attitude. And I've got to say this because I can remember when I was, they did an operation on me once that went from here to here, 17 stitches straight down my stomach, went through every muscle in my stomach, right? Straight down, had it done twice. The second time I said, just go down the same one. But what I found out was that there were people next to me who had far lesser operations that were, that were not up and about. And yet I was, they threw me out after a day. And in fact, I can remember the doctor saying that we normally would keep you in longer with such a big operation here, but you look fine. So and apparently the nurses tell me you're fine, and you're walking a city block to go and have a cigarette, which I used to do in those days. And I said, yep. So there's no point in keeping you. Go home. And I remember visiting my neighbor because they had a really nice lady in the bed next to me that I was looking after, And I went to go visit her 6 weeks later. And 6 weeks later, she was still lying on the couch doing nothing. Now, I wasn't allowed to drive, so I had to get somebody to drive me there. But, it's like, as you remember, I had that operation, okay, at 11 o'clock in the morning. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in a car going home. And I did not go to bed. All right? I did not want to be ill. Jody, what was it you said to me? Don't be your diagnosis. Everybody wanted me to be curled up in a ball in pain. Not wanted me to be, but expected me to be curled up in a ball in pain. And I said, hey, I'm fine. I don't have any pain. I got to be careful, but I'm fine. So I'd like to sit up if you don't mind. Better for my lungs, better for everything. Interesting. Jody's saying, I'll be replaying a broadcast as soon as I'm allowed to have my phone. I need to hear your voice. Well, hello. You could always phone me. Yeah, Karen, can you believe that? 11 o'clock I went into surgery, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was getting in Doug's car. And better than that, listen to this one, people. The next morning, I did 3,000 steps on my under-desk bike while I was having coffee and watching television. I came down for coffee, came downstairs. He has a 2-story place, and I came downstairs. They were terrified. But yeah, so how did you do that? Slowly? But you know, the whole thing is about you will be as sick as you need to be or want to be. And there's a difference, right? Jody has so many other issues going on as well. So, you know, she may take longer to recover, but I do know one thing. She's got an attitude. Right. Kimmy's saying she couldn't be still either. It's not that I was up doing a whole lot of stuff, but I wasn't lying in bed. Um, I was sitting up and watching television and chit-chatting, and you know, the same way, Jody, you know, like I can imagine with when you talk to me about how you help Lionel with prepping food and so forth, you know, it was just, what can I do? Nothing. And they wouldn't let me do anything. I'm saying, please let me do something. So I'd go and sit at the dining room table, and I say, at least, you know, let me try and do something here. The next morning, Karen, I had done 3,000 steps by the time I'd finished my second coffee. And Dougie just couldn't believe it. He said, I can't believe this. Oh, okay. So Jody's saying, I thought about calling you, but I'm afraid to laugh. You know how you are. Uh-huh. Does it hurt already? And why did I do the 3,000 K? I mean, 3,000 steps on my bike? I wanted my circulation to be working and healing my body. All right. I wanted things to be moving in my body. And I really, I believe it's the reason why after 2 weeks, I was almost completely recovered. Yes, and Karen's saying, but I heard that laughter is the best medicine. It is, unless you got 17 stitches down your stomach. In fact, I've only got one, you know, I only had one stitch here. It was one long, it was one long stitch, apparently. You know, it's like, for those of you who do sewing, it was ruched. You know, they did this running line all the way down. And I said to her, how come there aren't lots of stitches? She said, I just did a whole lot. Yeah. Okay. So, Jody, I am very sorry. I want to apologize right now. Are you with me, Jody? Jody, so I need to apologize right now. Because you and I both know that now that you've said, and I just need to read that out for the viewers, right? So she said, Vinsky, yes, but laughter is not good following a surgery because Sal makes me laugh until I cry. Okay, so here's my here's my apology. You know, just thinking about me is going to make you laugh. So therefore, hold hold everything together while you think of me, because you know I'll be there, and I know you know I'll be there. And I wish to apologize, and I hope that the drugs are good enough that it won't cause you. Because that's what I'm going to do, Jody, is I'm going to make sure that every time I think about you, I start to cry with laughter as well. Deal? So you're clutching already. Yeah, Kimmy is, right? Oh yeah, you'll be clutching a pillow and hoping I don't sneeze. I want to tell you something. I thought the one of the greatest things was I'll always have a memory of dear Doug trying to drive me home. And you know the streets in British Columbia are not the best kept because of the snow and everything and potholes and I want to tell you, I mean that poor guy, he was so terrified of hitting a pothole and he did. I said to him, I don't know why you're so worried. You know, you've got incredible suspension in this car of yours. I didn't feel a thing. And by the way, I'm on these really good drugs. I'm not feeling anything anyway. So, but do be careful, Jody. And what I want you to do is to know we're all there with you. Some of us trying not to laugh. Right. Karen's saying, Mama Sal, you made the best community on here. Beautiful seeing everybody being there for each other. Karen, I believe I've always said that as long as what I do here with Dear Mama Sal helps one person, it'll be worth continuing it. Because to me, we all need this support. All right, we all need it. Kimmy deserved it. You know, what about Jeannie with all that went on with her, and then Jodie's ongoing battle with everything, you name it. So you know, to me, and by the way, when I needed it, were you all there for me? You bet. And Karen, didn't you lose your daddy? You know, it's like I think it was you. But you know, it's just like, hey, isn't that what friendship is about? And I'm a great believer that my experience will, you know, help somebody else, and Jodie's experience is going to help somebody else, and so forth. And so, you know, I need to apologize to Jodie before she has this operation because I know that she cannot think about me without laughing. So therefore, I'm sorry, Jodie. But the muscles will be working. Yeah, this is good. So Kimmy's saying my eye surgery on my left eye is December 6th. Okay. We'll take a note, please, Jody. Uh, if the roads are okay. If not in spring. Ooh, okay. Yeah, you see, Karen, and that's why I'm saying you know, luckily I'm not going senile. But you know, I seem to remember, you know, at the time that your daddy passed, right? There were people here that genuinely cared. They weren't pretending, right? They weren't pretending. And by the way, for those of you, I'm going to go now, but for those of you who've been following my progress, you know, I stopped taking that anti-cancer drug, the one that kills off the estrogen. I made the decision to stop taking it. Um, I want to tell you, I can feel the difference in my body already. And I only stopped taking it a couple of days ago, Tuesday, Wednesday. I already I didn't take it on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days, I can already feel the difference in my body. It is it is quite amazing to me that I can. And by the way, yeah. So Kimmy, keep reminding me, all right, honey, just so that I'll make sure if you don't hear me mention it, make sure I keep ahead of that one. I will put a note in my day timer, and we'll put it in the Jody, let's put it in the database so that we've got that. What does my body feel like? Huh. You know something? It's really strange. You know that I've had real problem with teeth falling out and all sorts of things because of this drug, and that I could hardly walk because of the pain and so forth. Um, I don't know whether I can reverse any of that. I don't think so. So that's something I've done the damage now. But it, you know, I did it with good reason. So how do I feel? I feel more. I've got more energy. And I feel that any minute now I'm going to sleep normally because it had a terrible effect on my sleep pattern. I normally don't get to sleep until about 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's still happening. So I'm looking forward to that changing. I would like to get to sleep about 2 would be nice, but we'll see what happens. And I'll let you know if it changes. All right, I need to go. So everybody, big hug to you all, but particularly to Jody, because I won't be able to give you a big hug on Friday. How am I not going to make you laugh? I don't know how is that possible. You know what I mean? It's just like I will try very hard not to make you laugh, and in doing that, I'm going to make you laugh. So I'll just be me. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and all of you. We look forward to us all being together and hearing all Jodie's stories because I'm certain she'll cause havoc in there. So Jodie, and what I would suggest, Jodie, is let me have the stories so I can tell them for you if you need me to, because it'll be quicker for you rather than trying to type. And just, let people know that I've got your permission to tell the stories. Deal? All the best. And you'll be light to think about that. Well, I don't how much does a gallbladder weigh? But yeah, let's knock those pounds off. So good night, everybody. And we will see you all on Friday. And I mean all. We'll see you all on Friday. This is DearMamaSal saying thanks for being here. Bye-bye for now.